this entire presentation is based on my experience of the factors that influence a client's learning and why it is important to improve or enhance learning, make it quicker. A, the consultation gets over quickly, so you can do more work. B, when the client really learns is when he or she really applies that concept on herself. And that gets real mouth publicity because that gets observed. There are 8 factors that I believe influence a client's learning directly, and I'll put them all here in front of you. First being walk the talk. I'm sure we all understand, we practice what we preach. Second is mastery before momentum, that comes from Judith. Getting technically sorted ourselves before we start working out and sharing that information with others. Intelligence of the client and common sense of the consultant, a big factor that influences the learning of a client in a one-on-one consultation. Defining session goals, beginning with the end spelled out, beginning with the end in the mind. Type of learner the client is he an auditory learner, a visual learner, or a kinesthetic learner? The learning space or the place where the consultation is done, and I was amazed to see what this little small change did to the learning of my clients. Language or the verbal content of the consultant, and tools that are used during consultations. So these are the 8 factors that I feel influence learning of a client. I will discuss the 5 essential factors that I have identified, and they have helped me a great deal in the past 2 years in dealing with clients. Defining session goals, the type of the learner, the learning space, verbal content, and tools used during consultations. Starting with the first one, defining session goals, begin with the end spelled out. For the ones who have done TTT from ICBI or from anywhere else must have learned about learning outcomes. The reason we do it so that we begin with the end spelled out, that post the program, this is the outcome that the learner must achieve. This has been the most productive habit that I have developed with one-on-one clients. Before starting a consultation, prior to it, I write these down, I read them out and discuss with the client what is going to be the outcome for that particular session. It puts me under pressure because now the client knows what we are out to achieve. It puts the client in that focus frame of mind, and believe me, the time that we take to do a session, at least for me, I'm a very chatty person, this made a huge impact because my eye is on the clock. I have 2.5 hours and all these outcomes to achieve. So it's a very productive habit that I have developed. Try not to achieve more than 4 in a 2.5 hour session. I follow the rule of 3. I spell out 3 outcomes for a 2.5 hour session, and I set out to achieve them, and it helps me a great deal. The type of the learner, the client, is visual, auditory, kinesthetic. Again, something that came out from the TTT. Very useful. You will be surprised to know what this little information about your client can do to the way you deliver your content in a consultation. Benefits of identifying what kind of a client you have. You're better prepared with the tools that you use. You need not use all of them. And if there is an auditory client, this tiny information drastically changes the mode of delivery. If you have an auditory learner, these guys enjoy discussions. You ask their perception, you explain a concept, and then you tell them to rephrase it. And as they rephrase and hear their own voice, the learning is so much quicker. It works wonderfully. These people love to discuss things. So it's good if you keep reiterating the strategies, the outcomes that you wish to achieve. The more you repeat them, the more it registers and they learn quicker. Benefits. A visual learner. A visual learner needs pictures, videos, presentation slides. A good technique with them is, I've observed a lot of visual learners, and since I am one, I realize even if I'm in a meeting, the important points being discussed, I tend to pick up a pad and write them down, even though I might not ever see that paper again. But the process of writing and looking at those points that we discuss in a meeting, that somehow helps me register those things well. They imagine things, and they absorb and learn from the pictures that they have in their mind. The more they see, the more they learn. Kinesthetic learners, these are the tough ones. And these are the ones where the fill in the blank kind of a document we did does very well. You do a quiz with them where you make them tick mark. The personal style is superb because we have so much to give them to do with their hands and apply their mind. The learning space or the place where the consultation is done, places that have really worked for me. I use the conference hall in my husband's office now. It's empty and we book it now. It's worked really well because I can do whatever I want to do with that space. If preferably this space is next to a mall, it really works well. How I realize that is, I don't have a lot of garments. And nothing helps a client learn better than seeing an actual garment and discussing over it. So the minute we finish the lifestyle session in 2.5 hours, for half an hour we just walk down and go into the mall. And then we go through things, through garments in the mall, and then there is so much learning. The client will say, this is what I like. See, this looks good on me. So this, and that is when you can give just off the rack, you're giving recommendation at that moment that you like this, you buy this, we discuss budget, and things work very well. Application is very quick. Language or the verbal content, a big realization for me there, because I thought for a very long time that I spoke good English. But the verbal content here has two parts. What we speak, the words that we use, and the second is what we call professional vocabulary, professional lingo or jargons. Every profession has a set of words, we all know that, used for that profession specifically. And if we use those words that are different from the others for our profession, it adds credibility. In other words, in order to be perceived intelligent, we must sound intelligent. And when we use the vocabulary of our own profession, we sound like that. Tools that aided, that you can use in the consultation. Auditory learners read along most of the things. They need to listen. And these are the guys who will go home and if they don't understand the concept, will call you on the phone and you have to verbally explain it to them. These are not the people you give them an article, they go home and read it. They won't do that. They need verbal explanation. So videos, powerful audio content, flashcards, pictures with verbal explanation. You need to do a SWOT activity with this learner with verbal explanation. They are the ones who listen to learn and listen to understand. Engage them in discussions and you will be amazed at how quickly they learn. So a quiz in the form of written questions that you conduct verbally also works very well. Even the one like we did today. Reiterating key concepts helps them a great deal. So does asking them to rephrase. So if you tell them, what did you understand today? What is your learning? And as they rephrase, A, you understand, you gauge how much they have learned and understood. And B, they're kind of repeating and relearning what we've discussed in the session. So auditory learners don't like to go back and read, they usually call you back. So that's how you'll identify this is a typically auditory learner. For visual learners, highlighting key concepts is a very simple thing, but works wonderfully. Take a yellow or a light green fluorescent marker and the important outcomes or the important strategies that you want them to have them here before they leave for the session, you just highlight them. The minute you highlight them, that image gets captured like a camera, and I'm a visual learner, so I can tell you from experience. When I close my eyes, the wardrobe strategies, I can look at them. I can look at those strategies. So that's how visual learners learn. So highlighting is a simple thing, works very well with them. Charts, visual of the style scale or the authority charts, pictures, sort, any visual aid works very well with these people. Videos with self-explanatory visuals are also beneficial. Good readers generally. The articles and even extra info not discussed during the session can be given. So they are wonderful in this way. Any extra information that you want to add to them, you just give them articles, and these are the ones who will go home and read. Like I said, kinesthetic, my son is a kinesthetic learner, so I know the challenges that we face with a tactile learner. Sort activities for everything. Give quiz documents to take and make them do it, like the one we did today works fabulously well. And instead of showing pictures, if we cut out and request them to arrange it in many manners, authority chart, I like this, I don't like this. Once they're doing something with their hands, works very well for them. Thank you very much for patiently hearing me.